Considering the many myths and stereotypes that pervade ideas about women in espionage, we want to shed a light on the realities of female spies. We want to break down each of these tropes and explain how these myths interact with the realities. Who benefits from these stereotypes, and why are they so pervasive, despite the changing nature of intelligence and espionage?
First, we're going to have a ball. All yours, Bambi.
It's become all I'm known for, and that honestly, that bothers me. I am a highly trained secret operative here. I have collapsed numerous governments and assassinated numerous figures. And honestly, I feel like being cast into this singular role is unfair to the large amount of work that I do. Now, it is a useful tactic, as I said, but that is just what it is. It's a tactic. Only a tactic. I am not a honeypot. I honeypot people. I am an intelligence gatherer. That is what I do. I gather intelligence, and I'm very good at it. All of these movies would show me as just, someone to seduce the main spy, or as some evil sort of succubus sent to drain the soul out of the main character. Complete falsities. I drain the soul out of nations. Now, with that, I have a democratically elected Latin American government to collapse.
The myth of the honeypot originates with Mata Hari, who was a Dutch courtesan and exotic dancer who spied on the French for the Germans and was eventually caught and executed by the French for espionage. After her death, she had a lot of films and plays and books written about her, mostly by men, who really sensationalized her sexual exploits and using her feminine wiles to trick men into giving up their secrets. The realities are that governments benefit greatly from continuing this myth. They weave tales of men who are vulnerable to these manipulative spy courtesans. In World War I, Great Britain would often create propaganda that warned men of foreign women, saying they had no loyalty and would take any chance to take advantage of unsuspecting men loyal to their country. She was crafted as the antithesis to the mother, who instinctually held the social fabric of the country together, and the honeypot was therefore a threat to societal stability. There was the idea that the honeypot, as a woman, had no concrete understanding of politics, and instead would become a spy in order to succumb to her more lustful nature. She was sexual and therefore deviant. Honeypots, spy courtesans, femme fatales, were often seen as mainly communist fanatics, which stemmed mainly from the perception of deviance and oversimplified perception of communism's ideas of gender equality. In fictional media, the honeypot's portrayal can vary. Sometimes she's a tragic character, a beautiful, silly girl who was manipulated into spying by a sinister man. Sometimes she's the quintessential betrayer of men. A closely related trope to this is the old maid. During the Cold War, ideas of female spies fit into either category: a sex-starved, man-eating temptress, or a sexually repressed, man-hating spinster. This stereotype transcends across cultures, and we see it particularly in the Middle East, where the honeypot is portrayed as a succubus who exists to corrupt moral, loyal Muslim men.
Ça va. Passez, madame. Toi, avance.
I find that in this line of work, the best disguise for me is no disguise at all. Often I can just wander into a military base, and it's like they don't even see me. I rough up my hair, shout out some gibberish, put some dirt on my face, and they'll just complain to me about their day or their boss or their plans, and normally that's stuff my boss likes to hear. So I find that being a woman makes you fairly invisible in these environments.
Harmless women can take on many forms. old women, religious women, pregnant women, and women of different ethnicities and races. In fact, this trope changes across cultural boundaries. Particularly in the Vietnam War, Western perceptions of Asian women shaped the myths and stories of women. The only time they ever showed up in stories were when they were being victimized in some way. This is particularly evident when Western soldiers are portrayed as saviors to non-Western women. The reality is that this trope can be simultaneously damaging to our understanding of women in espionage, but also an effective tactic for spies to use. Sometimes, women are seen as so unassuming that certain parties may speak freely in their presence, assuming that the woman does not understand politics or the secrets they discuss openly. Women who are of a different race, or poor, or disabled, are seen as meek and docile and are therefore seen as not a threat. Teenage girls can also fall under this trope. Many groups would form student organizations who were instructed to report any intelligence that they overheard at home. Also, women who work on military bases as maids, cooks, laundresses could also report back significant intel that they overheard. This trope is seen less and is more connected to reality since it isn't quite so steeped in so much media and fictional interpretations as the honeypot.
There, will you? James, where on earth have you been? I've been searching London for you. 007 is here, sir. I'll see you in a minute.
Moneypenny. What gives?
Me, given an ounce of encouragement.
This whole secretary stereotype is actually really upsetting. I work 22 hours a day and take naps. I'm on my lunch break and my laptop is still open. What movie is there about the hacker or the cryptographer or the codebreaker? There isn't one. Why? Because I'm asked to get coffee every morning, even though I get paid twice as much as some of the field agents out here because I'm a hacker. You know who figured out Trump was being elected by the Russians? Me. It wasn't anybody else. It was me. Did I get credit for it? No. Because guess what? In a man's world, a woman sitting at a computer is a secretary. The only thing me and a secretary have in common is a desk.
Hey, where's that secretary with my coffee?
Try me again.
The third trope we see is the secretary. Women in espionage are often segregated to softer jobs in espionage. In the United States, women have historically contributed to intelligence work and what are seen as support jobs. Women have worked as typists, cryptographers, linguists, code breakers, analysts, or as hello girls, telephone operators who could speak multiple languages overseas. In the media, you would see them portrayed as secretaries, a Miss Moneypenny type, who only exist to push papers and support the men fetch their coffee. In reality, the work of women helped shape the modern intelligence community, especially in the United States. As espionage evolves, the contribution of women who are often portrayed in this stereotype becomes even more evident. In the early days of our intelligence community, many cryptographers and codebreakers were women, like I mentioned before. They shaped that aspect of intelligence work, and as intelligence evolved into the cyber domain, the infrastructure that female spies crafted in the early days of our intelligence community continues to be used today. In fact, the secretary was often the one who interpreted signals and monitored correspondence within and without the IC. Despite their contributions in these jobs and the realities of women in the modern American workplace make it difficult for women to attain leadership positions and promotions within the intelligence community. Because of this, women have organized within the intelligence community to support each other and provide role models for other women in espionage and intelligence work. This stereotype is unique because it is one that is put upon the female spy and is not really a tactic used to further the objectives of a spy organization. So the answer to the question, where are the women in espionage? Well, we don't know. Not for sure, at least. Women in espionage can conform to existing stereotypes that the media pushes forth. The honeypot, the harmless woman, and the secretary, among others. However, they are simultaneously subverting the traditional gender roles by participating in war through espionage and intelligence work. The existence of female spies and their media portrayals call into question issues of loyalty, identity, gender norms, and methods of war. These stereotypes can be effective tactics in espionage, but they are only one aspect of the way that women contribute to intelligence work. In this way, these tropes can also serve to silence real women's contributions, and the secretive nature of espionage restricts their voices and forces the public to look to these depictions for information on men and women in espionage, thereby reinforcing gender norms. This is the catch-22 of women in espionage. It is necessary for it to be kept classified for national security, but it is damaging for the media alone to keep the historical record of women's contributions. The lack of voice for these women and the pervasive stereotypes the media portrays may lessen the role modeling effect for other women and thereby increase the gender gap within espionage.